The night was loud with alien voices, the great arena glowing under strange lights. Thousands of creatures filled the seats, shouting, laughing, and placing their bets. It was not money they gambled with. It was life. Some wagered weapons, some wagered land, but the cruelest bet of all sat at the center of the arena. A young alien girl trapped inside a cage. She hugged her knees, her eyes wide with fear. Chains rattled each time she moved, and the crowd roared louder every time the announcer pointed at her. The announcer, a tall creature with 4 arms and sharp teeth, shouted that tonight's prize was rare. She was no ordinary girl. She belonged to a noble bloodline, but her family had lost everything. Now she was treated as nothing but a token in a dangerous game. Whoever won the gamble would win her life. Whoever lost would never see daylight. Again the crowd cheered, excited for blood and ruin. They thought it was all a show. But in the shadows of the arena, someone new appeared. A man unlike the rest. His skin was pale compared to the aliens, his eyes steady and calm. He was human. No one expected a human to step into such a place. Most thought humans were weak and unworthy to join the deadly games. The crowd laughed when he walked forward, whispering that he must be foolish or desperate. The man said nothing. He simply placed his small bag on the table of wagers. Inside was not gold nor jewels, but something far smaller, a silver coin from Earth. The announcer frowned and demanded what value it had. The man only replied, "It is enough." The crowd burst into laughter. They thought he was mocking them, but the announcer, amused by his confidence, allowed him to join. The games began. Bright boards of glowing colors lit up across the arena. Each round was a test of skill, strategy, and luck. The aliens played with greed in their eyes, tossing in treasures, weapons, and promises of slaves. The human sat quiet, studying the game. He made small moves, nothing too bold, but each one careful, precise. His calmness annoyed the others. They wanted him to lose quickly. They wanted to see him crushed. The girl in the cage lifted her head, her eyes caught sight of him. She had seen many gamblers before, drunk, wild, careless, but this man was different. He did not look at her as if she were a prize. He looked at the game as if every move carried weight. She did not understand why, but a small flame of hope lit in her chest. The first round ended. To everyone's shock, the human had not lost. In fact, he had taken the lead. The crowd grumbled, calling it beginner's luck. The announcer smirked, ready to watch him fail in the next round. But the man remained calm, his hands steady, his eyes sharp. He played again and again, always one step ahead of the others. The alien beside him slammed his fist on the table, shouting that the human was cheating. But no trick could be found. His moves were clean. His mind was sharper than theirs. The cage rattled as the girl leaned forward, her heart racing. Could this human actually win? The announcer raised the stakes, declaring that the next rounds would be harsher. The losers would not just lose their wagers, but also their lives. Guards with long blades stepped into the corners of the arena. The crowd roared in approval. The human only nodded once, as if he had expected this from the start. The second round was crueler. One alien lost and was dragged away screaming. The crowd cheered at the violence. Another alien fell to the ground, poisoned by his own drink. But the human stayed alive in the game. His movements grew bolder now, his strategies clearer. He was not just surviving, he was winning. The girl pressed her hands to the cold bars of her cage. For the first time in months, she felt her heartbeat, quickened not from fear but from something else. She whispered to herself, "Please don't lose, human." The announcer's voice rose higher, demanding louder cheers. The arena was shaking from the noise, but in the middle of the madness, the man sat still, his coin still on the table, shining faintly under the lights. His silence spoke louder than all the shouts. The night was far from over. More rounds would come, more lives would be lost. But already the crowd's laughter was changing. No longer did they see him as weak or foolish. Whispers ran through the seats. What if he wins? What if the human takes the prize? The announcer growled, promising that no human could last until the end. But deep inside, even he felt a flicker of doubt. The human's eyes were too steady, his confidence too strong. Something about him unsettled even the cruelest of gamblers, and In her cage, the alien girl clutched her chest. She did not know his name, she did not know why he came, but she felt it in her bones. This man was not like the others. He was not here to own her. He was here to change everything. The game had only begun, and already the entire arena felt different. A dangerous storm was coming, and at the center of it all stood a human who refused. To bow, his silence was his weapon, and his prize was not wealth but the life of a girl who had lost all hope. The crowd leaned forward, eager for the next round. The announcer smiled with cruel teeth. But in the shadows of the cage, the girl's lips curved into something she had forgotten long ago. A fragile, trembling smile. For the first time, she dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, she would be free. The arena did not calm after the first round. If anything, it grew louder. The crowd stomped their feet, the stands shaking like thunder. Everyone was talking about the same thing. The human, the stranger who should have lost, the fool who should have died in the first game. Yet he sat there alive, steady, his coin shining on the table as if it had power of its own. The announcer, with his forearms and cruel grin, raised his voice. "Second round," he shouted. "Raise your wagers, raise your lives." The board lit up with a strange glow, new symbols twisting and turning across the surface. This was not a game of luck anymore. It was a game of skill, knowledge, and nerve. Aliens muttered among themselves, calculating strategies. Some laughed at the human, confident that this time he would fall. The human leaned back, his eyes calm, as if he had seen games like this before. He studied the board with patience, tracing patterns with his gaze that others overlooked. He did not rush, he did not panic. The crowd grew restless. They wanted him to act. They wanted to see him stumble. The alien beside him, a hulking beast with horns and sharp claws, slammed his wager down, a blade made of black. "Crystal, this will be mine again when you fall, human," the beast snarled. The crowd cheered, hungry for blood. The human only placed his coin again, no change. "No fear," he whispered under his breath. Words no one but the girl in the cage noticed. One move at a time. The game began. Pieces slid. Across the glowing board, each decision carried weight. One wrong move meant death. The aliens played fiercely, their hands shaking with greed, their voices filled with curses and anger. But the human was silent. His hand moved slow, precise. His eyes flickered with thought. He was not chasing victory. He was building it. The girl inside the cage could not look away. Her heart pounded in her chest each time his hand reached forward. Each move seemed dangerous. Yet somehow, it always led to safety. She pressed her forehead to the cold bars, whispering again and again, "Win. Human. Please win." Midway through the round, a sudden twist lit the board. A hidden trap. One alien screamed as the light swallowed his wager. The guards dragged him away, his life forfeit. The crowd roared in delight at his downfall. The human, however, leaned closer, studying the trap. And then, to the shock of everyone, he used it, not against himself, but against another player. The board pulsed, and another alien's wager vanished. The crowd gasped. Silence spread like fire before. The noise returned, louder, fiercer. The announcer narrowed his eyes. His grin faltered for the first time. This human was not stumbling into survival. He was choosing it. The girl's breath caught. For the first time, she believed he might really be fighting. For her, the round pressed on. The beast with horns tried to cheat, slipping a clawed finger across the board to move a piece that wasn't his. The human's hand shot out, grabbing the claw midair. The crowd gasped. The beast growled, his teeth flashing. "Do you dare touch me, human?" But the announcer, though cruel, valued the rules of his games. He hissed at the beast, "Play clean or lose more than your wager." The beast pulled back, snarling. The human released him, his eyes never breaking from the board. Another move. Another twist. One by one, the other players fell. They raged, they cursed, they demanded the human be expelled. But each time, the announcer had no reason. The human's moves were clever, honest, and undeniable. By the time the round neared its end, only 2 players remained, The horned beast and the human. The beast's eyes burned with hatred. He placed everything on the table now: treasures, weapons, promises of land. He shouted to the crowd that he would crush the human. He wanted her, the girl in the cage. He wanted her as his prize. The girl shivered, fear flooding back into her chest. But then the human made his move. Quiet, sharp, final. The board flashed once, twice, and the beast's eyes widened in horror. His pieces collapsed into nothing. The crowd gasped. The beast roared and tried to rise, but guards were already at his side, dragging him down. His scream echoed as he was pulled into the darkness, his wager lost, his life gone. The announcer's voice cracked for a moment before he forced his grin back onto his face. "The human survives the second round," he roared. The crowd's laughter had turned into something else now. Murmurs, whispers, fear. They could not deny what they had seen. The girl pressed her hands to her chest. Her body shook, not from chains, not from hopelessness, but from something she had never dared to feel before. "Hope," she whispered through the bars so soft no one else could hear. "You're not like them. You're not here to take me. You're here to save me." The human lifted his head. His eyes met hers, and for a heartbeat, the noise of the arena vanished. In that silent moment, a bond was born, fragile but unbreakable. And as the announcer shouted for the third round to begin, the human only nodded once, as if promising her without words, "I won't stop until you're free." The arena lights dimmed for a moment, then blazed brighter than before. The announcer raised all four of his arms and shouted to the wild crowd, "Third round!" The stakes rise higher. His voice echoed like thunder. The floor of the arena shifted, strange patterns forming beneath the players' tables. This was no longer a simple gamble. This was survival dressed as a game. The crowd leaned forward. In their seats, their eyes glittered with greed and hunger. Many were no longer laughing, some whispered nervously about the human. Some even began betting on him, though most still jeered, hoping he would finally fall. They could not accept the idea of a human outsmarting their kind. The human sat silently, his coin still resting on the table. It caught the glow of the arena lights, shining like a star among the alien treasures. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharper now. He knew this round would not be the same. He could feel the hostility rising in the air. The announcer wanted him broken. The crowd wanted him gone. And the other players were watching him with hatred. The cage rattled as the alien girl inside gripped the bars. Her breath quickened when she saw the announcer smile with cruel delight. She understood what was coming. This round would be designed to kill, not just to test, she whispered, though no one could hear. "Please, human, be careful." The board lit up with new symbols, glowing red and gold. The announcer explained the rules. Each move could trigger a hidden trap. Some traps destroyed wagers, others destroyed lives. The losers this time would not be dragged away screaming. They would fall where they sat, lifeless in an instant. The crowd roared with bloodthirsty joy. The game began. The players made their moves, sweat dripping down their strange faces. Every hand trembled, but not the human. His movements were still steady. He studied the board like a puzzle only he could see clearly. He let others rush forward, hungry to strike, and when they triggered the hidden traps, he watched silently. The first alien to fall was a tall one with glowing eyes. He slammed his hand on the board, only to scream as his chest burned with fire. He collapsed in front of everyone, dead before. He hit the floor. The crowd cheered as if it were a sport. The guards removed his body like it was nothing. The girl in the cage flinched, her nails digging into the metal bars. She wanted to close her eyes, but she couldn't stop watching the human. His calmness frightened her, but it also gave her strength. He was not like the others, not cruel, not greedy. He was playing as if every move mattered, as if he carried someone's life on his shoulders. Her life. Another player fell, poison flooding his veins after a wrong move. Another screamed as the board shocked him into silence. Soon, only 3 players remained. One was a sly creature with too many eyes. One was the human, and the last was a cold and calculating alien with skin like steel. The multi-eyed alien leaned forward and hissed, "You cannot win, human, I will not let you." He tried to trick the human, sliding a piece across the board that wasn't his, but once again, the human caught him. His hand shot out, grabbing the alien's wrist. The arena froze, all eyes watching. The announcer snarled but could not deny the truth. The alien had cheated. Guards appeared, dragging him away, his life forfeit. That left only two. The steel-skinned alien and the human. The crowd screamed for blood. Their voices filled the night. The announcer grinned, eager for the clash. The steel-skinned alien leaned closer, his voice cold. "You think you fight for her? She will not thank you when you lose. You are nothing but a fool with a coin." His words stabbed at the human, but the man did not answer. He only moved his hand, steady, precise. His piece slid into place, the board flashed. The alien smirked, thinking he had trapped him. But the flash grew brighter and suddenly the alien's smirk vanished. The board shifted, pieces collapsing into dust. The human had turned the trap back on him. The steel-skinned alien gasped as the light struck his chest. He staggered, then fell backward, lifeless. The arena fell silent. For one breath, no one moved. No one cheered, no one laughed. They all stared at the human. He sat with his coins still shining, alive, while the others were gone. Then the silence broke. The crowd erupted into chaos. Some shouted in rage, others in disbelief. A few even cheered, voices trembling with awe. The announcer's grin twitched, his teeth grinding. He had promised the human would not last, yet here he was, standing victorious. The girl in the cage covered her mouth, her eyes filled with tears, not of sorrow, but of hope she had almost forgotten, she whispered, her voice trembling. "He's really doing it. He's winning for me." The human lifted his gaze toward her just for a moment. Their eyes met through the bars, and though he spoke no words, she felt it clearly. He was telling her, "I will not stop." The announcer slammed his hands on the table, his voice shaking as he shouted, "Prepare for the next round. The human may have won tonight's game, but he has not yet faced the true challenge." The crowd roared again, but this time, it was different. They were no longer mocking. They were afraid. For the first time in the history of the arena, a human was winning, and deep inside they all wondered how far he could go. The girl gripped the bars tightly, her heart racing. The chains rattled as she whispered to herself, "Please keep fighting. Please don't give up." The night was only growing darker, the dangers sharper, the bets higher. But in the center of it all sat the human, silent and unshaken, his coin shining like a promise. And everyone in the arena knew the truth. This was no longer just a game. This was a war of will, and the human was not losing. The arena floor was quiet for a moment after the third round ended. The crowd still buzzed, their voices trembling between anger and disbelief. No one had expected the human to last this long. He should have been dead in the first round, crushed in the second, erased in the third. Yet he sat there, alive, calm, his coin glimmering under the harsh lights. The announcer slammed his hands on the table, his forearms twitching in frustration. "Round 4 begins," he roared. His sharp teeth gleamed as he spoke. "This time, no luck will save you, human. No strategy will protect you. If you lose now, your life ends here." The crowd screamed in approval, stomping, shaking the arena with thunderous force. The cage rattled as the alien girl inside hugged the bars. Her heart raced with fear and hope mixed together. She had seen the human win 3 times against impossible odds, but she also knew the games were only growing deadlier. She whispered under her breath, "You don't have to do this, just live." But she knew he could not hear her, or perhaps he would not stop even if he did. The new round began. The board glowed a deep crimson this time. Strange symbols twisted like snakes across its surface. It was not just a game now. It was a battlefield. The rules changed. Every player was given a weapon card, and each strike on the board translated into a strike of pain on the opponent. The losers would not be quietly dragged away. They would be broken in front of everyone. The human did not flinch. He picked up his weapon card, a simple blade, plain compared to the monstrous tools given to the aliens. His hand rested steady. On the table, his eyes scanned the glowing lines with quiet focus. He was ready. The first clash came quickly. An alien struck the board, sending a searing line of fire at the human. The crowd cheered as the blaze roared toward him, but the human moved at the last moment, placing his piece down in a way no one expected. The fire curved, striking another alien instead. The creature howled in pain, collapsing to the ground. The crowd gasped. The announcer narrowed his eyes. His grin looked forced now. He shouted louder to hide his unease. Luck! That was nothing but luck. But deep inside, he knew it was not luck. The human was reading the board in ways no one else could. The girl inside the cage pressed her forehead against the bars. Her chains jingled softly. She saw the man's focus, his silence, his refusal to be shaken. He was not just playing, he was fighting. And she felt it in her chest that every strike he made was for her. The round grew harsher, the arena filled with screams as players fell one by one. Lightning cracked, fire roared, weapons flashed. Each alien tried to crush the human, but he evaded, turned their moves against them, and struck back with precision. The board glowed brighter with every decision. At one point, a blast of light caught the human's shoulder. He staggered for the first time, the crowd roaring in. Excitement. He bleeds, they shouted. The human bleeds. But he did not fall. He pressed his hand against the wound, steadied his breath, and leaned forward again. His eyes burned brighter than before. He refused to surrender. The girl gasped. Her hand stretched through the bars without thinking. Her voice broke into the air. Don't give up. The crowd did not notice her, but the human did. For a brief moment, his eyes lifted from the board and met hers. There, gaze locked, and something passed between them, silent but powerful. With renewed strength, he struck again. His piece slid across the board in a bold move. The lights exploded, trapping two opponents at once. Their screams filled the arena as they fell lifeless. The crowd went silent for a heartbeat, then roared louder than ever. Some cheered him, some cursed his name, but all of them now feared him. Only one alien remained against him, a tall figure covered in armored scales. The announcer leaned forward eagerly. Finish it, he cried. Show us what you are, human. The last clash was fierce. Sparks flew from the board. Energy slashed through the arena. The human's hand moved quickly, faster than before. His wounds slowed him, but his will did not break. The scaled alien tried to overwhelm him with brute force, slamming the board with both hands. But the human waited, watching, and at the perfect moment, he slid his coin across the glowing symbols. The board erupted, light consuming the scaled alien. His body fell, smoking, silent. The crowd was stunned, silence hanging heavy before an eruption of noise filled the air. Some screamed in terror, others in disbelief, and some cheered wildly. The announcer's grin was gone now. His sharp teeth clenched together. He pounded the table in fury, but he could not deny the truth. The human had won again. The girl pressed, her hands to her chest. Tears blurred her eyes. She whispered shakily, You're doing this for me. I know it now. The human, breathing heavily, finally looked at her again. For the first time, there was a faint smile on his lips. Not of pride, not of victory, but of quiet promise. A silent vow that he would not stop until the cage was open. The crowd chanted and screamed, demanding the next round. The announcer shouted for more blood. But the air of the arena had changed. The fear was no longer only in the cage. It was in the seats, in the whispers, in the hearts of those who had thought humans were weak. The girl gripped the bars tighter, her hope now a living flame inside her chest. The human was bleeding. He was exhausted, but he was unbroken. And she knew with every part of her soul that he was coming for her. The fourth round had ended, but the true battle had only just begun. The arena shook as the announcer rose from his throne, his forearms lifted high. His sharp teeth gleamed under the burning lights. Round 5. He bellowed. His voice rattled the air. The final round. All or nothing, the crowd screamed, stomping, shaking the stands like an earthquake. The girl inside the cage froze. Her chains rattled as she pressed back against the cold bars. This was it. She had seen countless rounds before, always ending in death and despair. But never had she seen anyone come this far. Her heart pounded wildly. She whispered to herself, "Please, human. Please don't fall now." The human sat at the table once again. His coin still rested in front of him. Its surface glimmered faintly, as if mocking the alien treasures and weapons piled by the other gamblers. His body was tired, his shoulder wounded from the last round, but his eyes were sharper than ever. He looked at the board as though he could already see the ending. The announcer's grin stretched wide. "This is no simple game, human. This is the death round." The glowing board in the center split apart, its pieces rising into the air, spinning, crackling with energy. "Lose and your soul burns," the announcer sneered. "Win, and the prize is yours. The girl is yours." He pointed his claw toward the cage. The crowd howled with hunger. The girl shivered. Her chains clinked as she shook her head. She knew what the announcer meant. If the human lost, she would be given to the winner, and the fate waiting for her was worse than death, she whispered. "Don't let them take me." The game began. The air burned with energy. Lightning sparked with each move. Shadows shifted with each strike. The human's hands moved steady, deliberate, but slower than before. His wounds weighed on him. Sweat ran down his brow. The first alien opponent moved, his board piece flashing red. A spear of fire shot across the table toward the human. The crowd screamed in delight, but the human raised his hand, sliding his coin into place. The fire bent midair, slamming into another alien instead. The creature screamed and fell lifeless. The crowd gasped, silence washing over them for a heartbeat before they roared even louder. The announcer's grin twitched. He had not expected the human to survive even the first strike. The girl gripped, the bars harder. Her breath shook. She had seen the human win many times now, but every round felt like a knife twisting in her chest. Every time he moved his hand, she prayed silently. The second strike came. This time the board glowed blue, and a blast of energy shot toward the human's chest. He flinched, pain searing through his body as the edge of it caught him. His teeth clenched, but he did not fall. Blood trickled down his arm. The crowd screamed in joy. "He's finished," they shouted. But the girl cried out, her voice louder than she thought possible. "Stand, please." Her words cut through the noise like lightning. For the first time, the entire arena turned to look at her. The announcer snarled, "Silence, slave." But the human heard her voice, and in that voice he found strength. He steadied his breath, lifted his hand, and made his move. The coin struck the board in a way no one expected. The glowing pieces spun wildly, shifting into new patterns. A trap unfolded, swallowing another alien whole. His scream was brief before silence claimed him. The crowd erupted into chaos. Only one opponent remained now, the Master's chosen champion. A towering alien with eyes like burning coals, his skin glimmered like steel. He slammed his wager onto the table, a mountain of weapons, riches, even slaves. His voice was deep as thunder. "You will not take her, human, she is mine." The girl shuddered. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "No, I'm not yours. I belong to no one." She looked at the human, her eyes begging. The final clash began. The board erupted with fire, ice, and lightning all at once. The champion moved fast, his strikes brutal. The human staggered, each attack cutting him deeper. The crowd screamed louder, sensing his fall, but then something changed. The girl reached through the bars of her cage, her hand stretched as far as it could. Her voice broke the air, trembling but fierce. "Please, win, not for me, not for them. Win because you are human." The human lifted his eyes to her. His bloodied lips curved into the faintest smile. He slammed his coin onto the board with all his strength. The arena exploded with light. The champion's pieces shattered into dust. His roar echoed one last time before his body crumbled. Silence fell. The crowd could not breathe. The announcer's jaw dropped. For the first time, no words left his mouth. The board dimmed, the glow fading. The only one left standing was the human. His coin sat untouched, shining faintly as if mocking the entire arena. The cage clicked, the lock opened, the girl gasped. Her chains fell away. She stumbled forward, her legs weak. She stepped out into the arena for the first time without bonds. Her eyes filled with tears as she looked at him. The crowd erupted again, this time in chaos. Some cheered, some screamed in rage, others demanded blood. But none of it mattered. The human reached out his hand, steady despite his wounds. The girl placed hers into his. "You won me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But you didn't win me like a prize, you saved me." The human said nothing. His silence was stronger than any words. Together they turned from the board, from the announcer, from the roaring crowd, and began to walk, step by step, toward the gates of the arena. And though the announcer shouted in fury, though the crowd screamed for more blood, no one dared stop them. For they had witnessed something impossible. A human who had beaten the game, not with greed or cruelty, but with unbroken will. The arena gates creaked open, but the human and the freed girl had only taken a few steps when the announcer's voice boomed, shaking the walls. "Stop them!" His sharp teeth gleamed with fury. His forearm slammed down on the table. "No human leaves my arena alive." The crowd erupted into chaos. Some shouted in rage, demanding the girl be taken back. Others screamed for the human's blood. Only a few whispered in awe, voices trembling. "He won. He actually won." Guards in black armor rushed forward, their blades glinting under the harsh lights. The air smelled of blood and fear. The girl clutched the human's arm. Her body trembled. "They won't let us leave," she whispered. Her voice shook with despair, but the human's face remained calm. He didn't speak, but his silence carried more weight than any words. He placed himself between her and the guards, his hand steady even as his blood still dripped from wounds. "The announcer snarled. "She was never yours to take, human. You won the game, but the game is mine, and what is mine stays mine." He lifted one arm and pointed at the girl. "She belongs to the house of wagers. She belongs to me." The crowd roared with approval, stamping their feet, chanting for blood. The guards advanced, their weapons raised. The girl's breath quickened. Her freedom had lasted only a heartbeat. But then the human bent down and picked up his coin from the board. He held it between his fingers, its silver shine cutting through the shadows. The announcer laughed bitterly. "You think that little trinket will save you now?" The human finally spoke, his voice low but strong. "You swore by the game, all of you." His words silenced the crowd for a moment. The rule was clear. The prize belongs to the winner. Do you break your own laws before your people? The announcer's grin faltered. Whispers spread through the crowd. Some shouted angrily, but others grew restless. "He's right," someone muttered. "If the master breaks the rule, what is the game worth?" Another shouted, "If the rules mean nothing, our wagers mean nothing." The announcer's eyes burned with rage. He raised his voice. "The rule bends to me." But even as he said it, the crowd hesitated. The arena thrived on fear, yes, but it also thrived on tradition. If the master broke the sacred law of the wager, then every gambler in the galaxy would turn against him. The human stepped forward slowly, pulling the girl with him. Each step echoed. His presence filled the silence, not with power, but with defiance. The girl looked up at him, her lips trembling. She had never seen anyone stand against the master, never seen anyone walk out of the arena alive. The announcer screeched, "Kill him anyway." Guards rushed forward. Their boots pounded the ground. Their blades flashed. The girl gasped, gripping the human's arm tighter, but the human moved faster than anyone expected. His hand struck the glowing board one last time. The coin clinked sharply against its surface. The entire arena pulsed with light. The board had not ended its power, and the human had known it. Energy erupted outward, knocking the guards back like rag dolls. Their weapons scattered across the floor. The crowd gasped in shock. The announcer stumbled back, his forearms raised to shield himself from the light. The girl stared in disbelief. You knew?" she whispered. Her voice broke between awe and tears. The human said nothing. He turned and led her toward the gates again. This time, no guard dared move. The crowd screamed and argued among themselves. Some shouted to let him leave, others cried for vengeance, but none stepped forward. The announcer's voice cracked with fury. "You cannot run, human. Even if you walk out tonight, the galaxy will hunt you. She is worth more than gold, more than kingdoms. They will not rest until you are both ashes." The human paused at the gates, his shoulders heavy with exhaustion but unbowed. He turned his head slightly, his voice cutting through the noise. "Let them come." The girl's eyes widened. Her heart pounded as she held his arm. For the first time in her life, she believed the words. She believed him. The gates opened fully. The outside world glowed with cold night air. The human and the alien girl stepped through together. The chains that had bound her now lay broken behind her. Inside the arena, the announcer raged. The crowd split between fear and awe. The game had ended, but something greater had begun. A human had defied the laws of the arena, had outplayed death itself. The girl pressed closer to him as they walked into the night. Her voice was soft, trembling. "You didn't just win me, you freed me." The human did not answer, but the faintest nod told her the truth. His silence was his promise, and though the galaxy might come for them, she was no longer afraid, because by his side, she was no longer a wager, no longer a prize. She was free. The night outside the arena was cold and endless. The air carried the smell of dust and smoke. The human and the freed alien girl walked slowly, his steps steady despite the blood dripping from his wounds. Her bare feet stumbled on the rough ground, but his hand never let go of hers. It was the first time in her life she walked without chains, and each step felt unreal. Behind them, the roar of the crowd still echoed. The announcer's furious voice could be heard faintly, shouting threats into the night. The girl looked back once, fear flickering in her eyes. "They will come after us," she whispered. Her voice was small, trembling. "The master will send hunters. He will not forgive this." The human did not answer. His silence was like a shield, calm and heavy. She watched his face in the pale light, and for the first time, she realized something. He had not fought the games for glory, nor for riches. He had fought only for her freedom. That thought made her chest ache, a strange warmth blooming inside her. They reached the outer gates of the city. A small group of gamblers had followed. Curious and afraid, some whispered among themselves, "He won by the rules. No one has ever left alive. The master will be finished if word spreads." Their voices trembled, and none dared block the human's path. The girl realized that his victory had done more than free her. It had shaken the very foundation of their cruel system. The night deepened as they moved further from the lights of the arena. Stars glittered above, silent witnesses to their escape. The girl touched her wrists where the chains had been. The skin was raw, but her heart felt lighter than it ever had. "I don't even know your name," she whispered. Her voice broke with emotion. "But I will never forget you." The human glanced at her, his eyes soft for a moment. Then he finally spoke, his voice low but steady. "Names don't matter. You're free now." Tears stung her eyes. For so long she had been nothing but property, a wager, a prize to be bought and lost. Now, one human had given her something more powerful than she ever imagined: choice. But their path was not safe. In the distance, strange shadows moved, hunters armored and armed sent by the announcer to drag them back. The girl's breath caught. "They're coming," she said, fear shaking her voice. The human stopped walking. He turned to face the dark shapes moving closer. His coin still rested in his palm, shining faintly under the stars. His shoulders straightened, though his body bled. He whispered only 2 words. "Stay behind." The hunters approached, sneering. "The master wants his property returned. Hand her over, human, and maybe we'll let you die quick." Their weapons gleamed, their laughter sharp and cruel. The girl clutched the human's arm. "You can't fight them all, you'll be killed." Her tears streamed down, but he only looked at her, and in his steady gaze she saw the same promise he had carried in the arena. He would not let her be taken again. The hunters struck first. Blades and fire cut through the night, but the human moved like a storm. He was wounded, yes, but his will burned brighter than pain. He turned their strikes against them, his coin flashing in the dim light like a weapon of its own. Every move was precise, calculated, as though the games had trained him for this moment. One by one, the hunters fell, their shouts echoing into the dark before silence claimed them. The last dropped his weapon and fled into the night. The girl stood frozen, her hands shaking. She had never seen anyone fight with such quiet, relentless strength. When it was over, the human staggered, blood soaking his arm. The girl rushed to him, holding him up. Her tears fell onto his skin. "Why do you do this?" she cried softly. "Why risk everything for me?" The human looked at her. His voice was faint but firm. "Because no one deserves to live as a wager." Her heart broke at his words. She pressed her forehead to his arm, sobbing, but in her tears was not despair. It was gratitude. It was hope. The night was silent again. Stars glimmered above them. The human leaned on her as they walked further into the darkness, the city lights fading behind them. She whispered, her voice trembling but full of new strength, "I am not a prize anymore. I am free. Because of you." And for the first time since she had been caged, she felt something rise inside her. Not fear, not sorrow, but the courage to live. The announcer could send 1,000 hunters. The galaxy could rise against them. But nothing could undo what had already happened. A human had walked into the cruelest game in the universe, and he had won. Not riches, not glory, not power, but something far greater. A life, a bond and a freedom that no one could steal.